Hello everybody and happy Valentine's Day. In the spirit of the holiday, I wanted to talk about what real love is and what love is, especially in the romantic relationship context. So first I want to start by saying our conditioning of love and what we're told that love is by our society and how we're raised is that of possession. We are taught that it's possible to deserve and not to deserve love. And this in itself is such a damaging cognition. Because then we think that there's ways we can act or respond that will allow us to lose love from somebody. And we're first taught this by our parents. When we're little kids, based on our behaviors, love is given and love is taken away. And so this idea that love is possible to be changed and to be out of the flow of it is rooted in us. And this is so damaging to us because then the rest of our lives and in our relationships we go on thinking that we can be like lost in love and that there's times we don't love somebody, there's times that we do. But I think the true sense of love, and from what I've learned in my spiritual beliefs, is that love is a flow. Love is actually a space and it is the space of reality. It is a constant, and there's no way that you could fall in love with somebody or out of love with somebody. It's just always present. And so when you're in this beautiful space of feeling that divine flow and connection to all life around you, is that you can express that love to everybody that you meet. And that's not to say you might not have romantic feelings for somebody, but it's the idea that that space of love is always present and it's everlasting, and no one can do anything to deserve or not to deserve it. It's just always there. And I think in romantic relationships, we get very hung up on this idea of possession and of ownership of the other person. And it's really sad because the entire idea of love is the antithesis of that. It's the antithesis of ownership. It's pure freedom when you're in the space of real love with somebody, as that you know that they were never yours and they never will be, but that the idea is you can just enjoy life with them. And I think I've got to experience this. I'm so blessed because I used to think that this kind of love really didn't exist. My parents are divorced, and I was a complete non-believer in love in the first place for most of my life, especially the fairy tale kind of love. But I can say that I'm at this place in my life where I'm getting to experience this cosmic love in such a beautiful way in my romantic relationship. And of course through Swamiji, I met my partner Nanda, and I've been so blessed to get to start to share just in my journey with him and see the difference. I think in the context of our whole relationship is that it's based in worshiping each other as the divine. And I think it's so unbelievably beautiful because all it is about is raising each other to our highest potential and then just enjoying the beauties and trials of life together and just being in that partnership. It's not about owning him or him owning me or controlling one another or feeling even attached to one another. I know that no matter what happens with us, I'm just so thankful for what we've gotten to share so far, and however it turns out, I know that it's just so beautiful to get to share that with somebody. And one other thing I want to touch on is I think in romantic relationships, especially I would say around this holiday time, right, we center the idea of love on lust actually, and this lust pattern is a huge part of American society. I would say like everything we see is stimulated by sex, by sexuality, by this idea of lust. Everything's driven by it in our culture, even business. And a lot of us, I think the reason we long for a sexual relationship and sexual connection to somebody is because that's often the highest form of connection or oneness we've actually ever felt. Is that in that moment of unity with somebody, we experience oneness in the physical body, and it's this deep longing in our soul. And I know for me, like, of course I've felt that, but I think that where people get hung up is that they think that that's it stops there, that that's the highest form of connection. And so when you put so much weight on that sexual aspect of your relationship, of your sexuality, and base it on sex and whether or not you're having it or whether or not the person desires you, it's an extremely unstable relationship to be in, because that stuff is so fleeting and it's only attached to this physical body. And yes, it can have a beautiful spiritual context to it in the correct ways. But one, most of us don't know how to keep that context, maintain that context in that space. But two, that there's so much more to experience with the other person. There's so much more to share. And I can say, like, I've come to a space where I know and I have experienced that that without even touching somebody, even without even holding their hand, you can feel so extremely intimate with them in so many other spiritual ways. When you really get to know and love their being, the core of their being, and not just the shell that they're wearing in this lifetime in the physical body. And so I just think that true love, especially in romantic relationships, needs to be established in the space of oneness, in the space of the flow, that my love is never going to be taken away from you, and you can never do anything to deserve my love or not to deserve it. So today, just take some time to think about, in your relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, if you are in the context of worshiping the divine in somebody, in loving the core of their being and being tapped into that space that is never changing and never fleeting, because I think that will bring you the most lasting love and the most bliss and joy in your relationships, and so much freedom comes with it too. So thank you so much for listening, guys, and I'll get back to you next week. Nithyananda.